So on the M74 tubing, you've got at two different size lengths. You've got either 24-inch or 48-inch lengths, depending on how much you're dropping down the tubing here. Here we would definitely only need the 24-inch. If you've got large or high bay ceilings with a lot of truss or wood framing members up in the ceiling area, you might want to drop down lower. Ideally, you're going to want to drop it down below the truss level or just with the truss level, so you're not lighting up all that mechanical equipment up in the space, rather than lighting the space below, which is intended to be daylit. So when we're putting these together, the tools that you'll need here are probably a rivet gun. So I brought a couple samples in my little Hilton bag. So I brought two. Any of the ones that you buy off the shelf at like your standard hardware stores, I would stay away from because they're really not very good. This one we ordered, and it's handheld. It works really well. Obviously, pneumatic works the best, but nobody has most job sites don't always have air for you. You're not going to want to carry a compressor with you all over the place. This is another one we had bought. I like this one as well. It's a little difficult to get used to, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty good. It's called Riv Drill. And it just attaches to just a regular screw gun, and you just pop it on there, and forward locks it in place, and reverse pulls the tang out, and it's ready to go. For simple jobs, I kind of prefer this one here, but this is just really easy to use. When you're assembling the tubing, I always like to just pull the aligner off. If you're just getting to the job, or if you haven't had lunch yet, you can go ahead and pull the liner off, because you're not going to get the tubing very dirty on the inside. And if you are, it's going to be right on the edges where it's going to overlap anyway, so it's going to cover all the smudges. The reason I like to pull the liner off is because you get the liner out of the way on the seams themselves, and when you put the tubing together, then you're going to have to take a knife and score it, and then you're picking all the frays out of there. So it's best to just kind of pull it out at the beginning. Once you pull that liner off of the tubing, this now becomes, and if you leave this out in the sun, this becomes a giant magnifying glass. And you walk away to go eat lunch, the building will be on fire by the time you get back, or at least it'll be smoldering. And I can tell you, we were installing it at our building, and we did an expansion of the offices and added 100 units. And we were building tubing on the roof deck and set it aside. We put together 2 tubes, set it aside, set the flashing down. By the time we got the flashing out, got back, the roofing material had already bubbled up in the one section there where the sun was beating down into there. So if we had left it for any longer period of time, we could have had an issue there. We've had many reports of incidences where people have left material up on the job site over the weekends when there's nobody there working, and we've actually had a fire at a fire department, new build. The mechanical guys left material up on the roof right on top of the trash, and it just caught up like no problem, and it caught the building on fire. Another church incident too, where the guys left the open tubing up on the roof deck and burnt that section of the church as well. So it will catch a fire. It's just like having a giant magnifying glass. Other safety concerns. The material can be sharp once you get used to handling this here. I mean, I would recommend gloves on most cases, especially when you're handling the flashings themselves. The edges on the flashings are sharp. So definitely can cause cuts, nicks, and stuff like that, so you don't want to be bleeding all over the tubing or anything like that. So it can be sharp, so use caution there. Okay, so when we're building the tubing, there should be rivet fasteners inside each of the kits that you get. So you get a bag of rivets with each one of these here. So we'll just go ahead and open these up. And then when you're assembling the tubing, you'll notice here that there's a little groove on the one side here, and it's open on the other. We're going to want to make sure that the groove goes on the inside. It's almost like a guide to show you where everything goes. So it sits there. And so what we do is just start riveting. So on M74, when you're installing or assembling these here for just a core unit, the one that initially goes onto the curb cap assembly has these little notches here. What you want to do is just take them and bend them out. So there's a little tab there. It's kind of hard to see when I first started, but you want to bend it out. What this is a guide for your tube belt when you're assembling the unit together in later steps here. But pulling it out right now is going to be beneficial, helpful that you can actually get to it at this point. So ideally, if you had space on a truck that you could do that, would be great. But the thing is it's so big that it's best to just build it on site. Kind of why I like the riv drill. If you're doing a lot of units, this works pretty well. Again, it's because it's so much faster than the hand rivet. If you're only doing one or two, that one's fine. And like I mentioned, the pneumatic's always the easiest, but not always convenient. So this is assembled and ready to go together. And really, if you're doing just a core unit with a single extension tube, that's really all you need to assemble at this point. The next portion would be up on the roof, putting together the flashing itself. So I'll show you guys the tab locks on here, how they go together before we get up on the roof. So because this is pre-assembled at the factory, we try to incorporate everything that we could with it. So insulation, where we wouldn't always need it, like in San Diego or LA, we don't need it, but it's more common to see the use of insulation in other areas. And so we added it to it. Also the fire band's not always necessary, but we put it on as well. So that we kind of try to cover all the needs for installation in different areas. Okay, so when we're putting the tubing together, so we're just going to pop this one right onto here, and I say that like it's easy. I'm going to make it look fairly easy, but there's these little tab locks that are all the way around here, and I'm going to call these these are fins, basically what we're calling these. So these are the taller or larger fins, and these are the shorter guys here. So you got large and small all the way around, same as the others. When you assemble the pieces together, we're going to put the large fins are always going to be on the outside, so you're always going to be able to see these on the out. These ones will be covered. The short ones will be covered. One other thing that I wanted to point out to you, on the actual assembly here, there's one of those little tabs that I pulled out. It's right on here. It's another guide to help with the belt alignment as well. So we'll just go ahead and put this together. Typically what I do is try to find the seam right here. And what I'll do is I'll just put these on opposing sides. So I'll put this seam here and this seam here on just exact opposite sides, and it'll help me line up right away. And you'll be able to see as I start to lock these together that as I do so, you can see it's hard to reach around here, but you'll see I'm really not reaching like this. Around here. Yeah, that's all right. So you can see the large fin is on the outside, and the short one's hidden on the inside. And I'll go that way all the way around. So you'll see, we'll just lock that one. This one here, and then all the way around. So then that's all together. Then we're just going to take a tube belt. The belts themselves actually have these little pressure pins here that you just kind of push together, and we'll lock it in place. So when you snap it together, it'll lock in and hold it in place. But you just release it here, and that way then you can get the hook here. You're just going to take that belt, wrap it around the tube, and you get it kind of tight. You're not completely locked in place. But what you do is on those little tabs here, so you can see this guy here. I'll show you on the other side here in a second. This one will fit right on top, sits right on top. We're going to cover the seam all the way around. This one here on this side is going to fit right up to the bottom edge of it. And so that way, that's kind of your guide all the way around. And as you hold it kind of snug all the way around, one guy can get it and then lock it in place. Yeah, unless you're all the way around. And I don't have long arms. So that's essentially it. Then you would just put your diffuser on the same exact way, because the diffuser will pop on with the tab locks, and then you put the belt on. If you're looking for aesthetics on a very short ceiling like this here, you'd probably want to have the belts line up evenly, because people are going to be able to see that. And then that would be it. So then you would just flip it over, drop it on, and then put your fasteners in. You can take opposing seams and then just set it on the exact opposite side here, and then you can start to put it together. Again, larger fins sitting on the outside. Whoops. You guys are lucky because normal class I have you guys go to work on this afterwards. True. So that's it there. I would give it a little pull up and then put the belt on, and we'll line it up just like we did the other one. Just kind of hook it there, and then just pull it a little tight, just like we did before. On that one that we pulled up top, it'll set right on top of it over here. And then we're just going to push it right up to the edge, not over it, but just right up to the edge of the diffuser seal, all the way around. And we want to make that line up here. You want to make that line up here? Yeah, you guys want to let go a little bit. I need to slide. Perfect. That's over the top. Yep. Okay. That's it. So assembly's pretty easy. Then you, like I said, just flip it and then off you go.
If you've got this in a fine, dusty manufacturing plant, are you going to tape everything?
Great question. So remember I mentioned about best practices for installations. Now, if you know that you're going to be in like a shop that's going to be cutting like maybe a lot of sawdust or a lot of dust and debris, that's going to have a lot of soot in the air, it's probably best to tape off the seams. Now, we don't provide tape with the M74 because it was designed and intended not to have it, but we found that in certain cases that there may be some issues with dust and debris. So I would tape your seams with foil tape, and you can order that through us. It just comes in little packets like this here, or you can buy the, I think it's the 100-foot roll that you can buy from us as well. So the foil tape you just take and tape the seams together. What that's going to do is help with any debris getting inside the units themselves. The top's pretty secure because we don't have to worry about installation practices up on the rooftop. It's just the interior here that may be a concern for this here. Your curbs, again, can be site built or you can purchase them depending on what the roof type is. If you've got a lot of metal roofs, you can get the pre-manufactured metal curbs that'll actually match the profile. So you just work with a curb manufacturer. We have a couple that we can recommend to you. We've had some pretty good partnerships with some of them. They'll provide insulated curbs for you there. This is pretty typical. Even the guys in Minnesota do these site-built ones just like this here. They would, in most cases, insulate them because of the climate that they're in. But typically when you're installing this here, if it does get wet like this here, the good thing is this is going to dry out. So we're going to set it here. It'll help to dry it out once we set it down, and we'll get it on top here. So assembling would be on a nice sunny day. We would do it up top here, build everything up top just like we did down below, and then we'll just flip this thing over the top and set it on.
Do they do the hard?
You can do either, whatever's preferable. So you can do either batted. So sometimes we always recommend you doing a round cut, a round opening so the tubing fits through, especially in your really cold climates. So you got a lot of moisture that's going to, potential moisture down below there. So yeah, for condensation, because you got warm interior and then, snowpack over the top here. So you want to make sure that those two temperatures don't hit because it'll start raining inside. But you would either do rigid insulation and then either seal it to this here, or you can do the batted. The thing with the batted, you got to make sure that it doesn't compress because all the insulation is in when it's all full. So when you're stuffing insulation up in there and you're smashing it all up there, it's really not doing much good at all. What we'll do is go ahead and put this on. Heads up! Who built this thing? Who built that? So you can see you got a nice tight fit here. On the bottom side, you'll notice that there's a weather stripping on there, so it takes the place of the sealant. So once we get this done, it'll make a nice tight fit. There's no need for the caulking on the M74 product. It's well waterproofed around the edges there. You can see that they did the seams here. It's heat welded over the edges. They've got caulking as added support or protection on there. You guys are getting a lot of rain up here, so definitely important. Your vulnerable points, because this is a cap over the top, your vulnerable points are going to be your waterproofing on the edges here, which is probably going to be provided by others. So leaks, not usually a potential here. If you're using self-lashings, there's more of a potential because it's sitting right on the deck. But with the curbs, that's why we recommend using curbs on most cases, and we do sell that option for that. So what we would do is just take our fasteners. You can use the ones that we provide, or you can use the purchase your own. Tech screws with the little rubber grommets on them. Those work really well, but we were using these here, and we'll painstakingly put all is it 16? 4, 8, 12, 16, yeah. 4 on each side. These here? Yeah, these what we provide. Number 14, yeah, number 14. So once we get the cap on, there's a protective liner over the dome, just to help protect it from scratches and stuff during installation. Yep, there's a little note up there, got the back raw material label on it, as well as the remove protective liner. We're just going to take it and peel it off, and there we go. It's sealed on the inside, so it actually goes through and then hits a sealant, and then there's a grommet on the other side with a rubber washer. Okay. So it's completely sealed. We're good to go. All right. As a matter of fact, it is.
Yeah, it is. I watched it. Why am I up there?
Okay. Actually, let's flip it upside down. Perfect. Okay, then we can get the tube on.
Set back here.
Ooh, this is a little over about there. And looks like we're good.
Yep.
It's good.
Okay.
All right, now we can flip this. Careful with the
Wires.
with the wires for sure.
Found that out.
Just drop it straight in. We'll set those off to the side. Now we can deal with the collector. Now the collector, we're going to peel the liner off now. All right, we just set this back on top. Nah, fine.
Well, this part
Yeah. we have to make sure, because if we don't place it in the right section, it's completely useless. So you're going to block out more light than you'll ever get in. So we'll just get at our. So it's telling me south is that way. Is that everybody get that? So what we do is just spin this now to where we need to go. And we said south was facing almost directly back that way. Let's double check. Anybody else got a compass? Let's double, triple check. So that way, south is going to collect all your southern light coming through. So if we had it reversed, all your light, because we're up in the northern hemisphere here, is going to hit here and just be blocked completely. So all you got is a very poor performing, expensive tube. So then we can adjust this to where we need to. Tighten these up loosely so we can still make some fine-tune adjustments. Because as we're putting it back on, it wants to have a tendency to, you know, if you're not on just right, it'll pull one side, one will be loose and the other will be super tight. So we just got to make some fine-tune adjustments, but we'll get it on. So now this is all ready to go. So a couple other pieces we got to put on. Definitely critical piece is making sure that this is facing the right direction. Okay, so we're just going to put these brackets on to help hold the collar here. We're going to put this down. We're going to drill holes into the flashing and into the cone itself, and then we'll put 2 screws into here to fasten it to the curb itself, and we'll just get these guys over here too. So we've got a drill bit. What I was doing is there's 2 little pre-marked holes there, or like notches for you for alignment, and so I just drilled those 2 out, and I can get those 2 rivets in. Okay, so that's locked in here, and then we'll just hit this guy here. There it goes. There we go. Okay, can everybody see? I know it's a little difficult. On the amplifier, you've got 3 fins that come in the pack, so you've got 3 sections of the amplifier that come with it. We're going to hang the sections of the amplifier on the tubing itself. So those tab locks on that last extension tube that come down here, we're going to take and we're just going to bend them straight out. That's going to help hang the amplifier. And I'll show you that in just a second once these are all pulled out. All right, so we'll do that. We'll go ahead and pull the liner off of all these. Just the one that we're working with, at least for now. And as I was mentioning, we're just going to hang it. So on the amplifier itself, you'll see there's these little notches that are going to accept those tab locks that are bent over. And so what we can do is then just hang it right off the edge, right into those slots. All right, so we got one section hung. We'll grab the other one. And we'll hang all 3 sections. Had it. So what I'll show you on this last one here is when you get them all hung, you need to bend the tabs back over to help lock it in place. So as we do that, we can see that I'll just kind of take those and push them over and lay them flat. It's going to help, again, lock it into place. So now they're free hanging, but they're not going to fall off at least. Okay, so that's set. There's a fastener kit that comes with this. There's 2 sets of tape in here, and then there's a bag of screws, or I'm sorry, rivets. And we'll go ahead and use the rivets right now and fasten this. So usually this initial one is a little difficult to get, so you're going to have to pull on the tube or the tubing material just a little bit. Once you get it, locks into place, and then we'll hit the rest of the rivets. The other thing is that we need to tape off these little tabs that we bent over, because light's leaking out of those pretty good, so we want to make sure that those are sealed off. Those will be covered by the belt, so it doesn't matter what it looks like at this point. taping up all these, the tabs that we pull over. We're just taping up those holes there so they're not showing light coming through. But what we're going to do is just take along those seams where we riveted, we're going to take a piece of tape. We'll go ahead and put this down, tack it down just in several places down through, and that way then you can just easily push it down. What works really well is these little cardboard cores for the tape. They work really good for working out the creases. Pushes the tape down too. It's a good seal. Okay, so what we did is we went ahead and hung all three sections of the amplifier onto the extension tube here. We took the tabs, we bent them over, and then we were able to hang each section of the amplifier onto that tube there. Once they were hung, we can then overlap the two seams on the amplifier itself, and then we can go ahead and rivet in all the pre-punched holes there. So we're going to add rivets all the way through on each of the three pieces here. Once that's done, we're going to want to take and push over those tabs that are hanging, that are helping the amplifier hang there. And what we'll do is we'll just put tape over those because there's a little bit of a gap there. We're just going to cover that up with some foil tape to make sure that there's no light peeking out of there on that section there. Once we got that all done and riveted, what we're going to do is all the seams right where the rivets were that we put in, we're going to take a piece of that tape that comes with it, and we're just going to seam it all the way down so it's covering up any openings or any joints that are visible for light to be peeking out there. We'll take that empty core or a flat, like a credit card or something, to seam that out to make sure that there's no creases. Because this one's low to the ground and very visual, you want to make sure that everything, all the creases are out for visual and aesthetics. Once that's all set, now we can go ahead and put the diffuser on. And just like all the rest of them, the large fins stick on the outside. We'll hook one, hook 2, 3, 4, 5, and one more. Because this is visual, we're going to line all these up. So the one you can see up top there inside the opening, we're going to line this up with that so it matches. We got one more belt to put on too. We'll get this lined up. We'll just go ahead and get that clasped. We've got the amplifier belt around, and what we're doing is we're going to rest the belt itself right on the edge of the diffuser seal. And so what we're doing is just placing it evenly all the way around the tube, or the amplifier itself. Once it's in place and lined up with the rest of the belts, we'll go ahead and just snap that shut and lock it in place. We got one more to put on here. This is the 2 connection here for the tube and the amplifier. So this one is going to fit right around that tube connection between the actual tube itself and the amplifier. There's these 2 rivets up on the top of this amplifier. It's going to rest just right above the rivet piece there. So we're going to rest it right over the top there. So as we're holding it kind of taut there, we can walk around and see where it's at, making sure that we're lined up. Once it's lined up and in the right position, then we can go ahead and take that belt. I'll move it over just a hair. There we go. Move it over just a hair and then snap it in place. Now, as you're moving it around like that, it has a tendency to want to cut the tape a little bit. You have extra tape there, so you can put a little piece over the top of that and plug up some of those holes that might have gotten cut by the belt. Pretty good.